Madurai, one of the oldest cities in the Indian peninsula and one of the continuously inhabited cities in the world, has a rich cultural heritage that is more than 2,500 years old. Situated on the banks of the river Vaigai in the state of Tamil Nadu, Madurai is popularly known as the city of temples. Apart from being a cultural hotspot and a pilgrimage town, Madurai is best known for its delicious cuisine, marvelous architecture, shopping streets, and above all, its endearing people. The history of Madurai dates back to the early 3rd century BC. The extravagant Meenakshi Sundareshwar temple lies precisely in the center of the city and is the fulcrum around which the daily life of the locals revolve. The original temple was ransacked by the Muslim invader Malik Kafur in 1310, and the present structure was built between 1623 and 1655 CE. About 1.5 kilometers from the Meenakshi temple stands the beautiful Thirumalai Nayakar Mahal, built in 1636 by King Thirumalai Nayak. Nayak envisioned creating a masterpiece for a royal stay. The architecture is a perfect blend of Dravidian and Islamic styles. Apart from that, it is a spectacular tourist destination and an architectural marvel that any eye will adore. The interiors mesmerize everyone with the intricate paintings and sculptures that adorn the palace roof. Thirumalai Nayakar Mahal is best known for its majestic pillars, which have a height of about 82 feet and a width of almost 19 feet. The streets of Madurai are filled up with stalls that cater to traders day in and out, with several food stalls present there. This is why the city is also called Tunga Nagaram, which roughly translates to the city that never sleeps. Madurai is a one-stop destination for all the foodies in town. A cold, refreshing desert drink of Jigar Thanda, a concoction of condensed milk, fresh ice cream, and Nanari syrup is a local favorite and also a perfect way to escape the scorching heat of Madurai. Madurai is quite famous for its bun parota and mutton curry. The bun parota is a fluffier take on the normal parota. It is a perfect golden brown on the outside and soft on the inside. Served as a snack, the dough incorporates eggs, milk, butter, flour, sugar, and bananas, and is made into small fluffy parotas that look like absolutely mouth-watering buns. The lesser-known exquisite handlooms of the temple town Madurai. Since ancient times, handloom has been the pride of India's traditional and cultural artistry. Handloom sarees are made of silk and cotton threads and contain almost 60 to 120 threads on one linen saree. Saree weaving is one of the most exhausting but creative work processes in the world. It is also highly time-consuming. It is generally a family business and is considered a cottage industry in India. The final product of the handloom weaving process comprises several stages. Each region of India uses different raw materials for its unique handloom products. Madurai handloom is best known for its quality and print. The first type of handloom we'll be looking at is the 60 cotton saree. The basic raw material required to make this saree is the cotton yarn. Yarn is a long continuous length of interlocked fibers. This cotton enters the factory as a raw substance and leaves the factory as a whole product after undergoing various steps. In the beginning, the material is placed in the boiler, which operates when wood is lit. The powdered starch is combined with clean water to create a thick liquid that gives the material its thickness. They sometimes add a chemical dye to the cotton to get varied colors of spindles. The cotton is thoroughly washed in the starch until it absorbs the liquid completely. It is then twisted and rolled clockwise to squeeze off the excess starch. This procedure is used to give the cloth more flexibility, which will be needed in the upcoming processes. The fabric is then taken outdoors to dry, and the workers inspect it for tangles before placing it one by one in the sun. The fabrics should not heat up as a result of the hot sun. Instead, they should maintain a constant temperature. So, once they are semi-dry, they are taken out and put in the shed where there's less heat, but the materials can dry more slowly. The cloth, which is made of similar yarns in one or a variety of colors, is then moved to the godown once they have completely dried. These yarns are spun into spindles according to the color of the sarees. And mind you, they never run out of yarns because they are manufactured on a regular basis depending on the demand. The most complicated part of the whole process is weaving, where the saree is woven on a handloom. Weaving is the process of interlacement of warp and weft, that is vertical and horizontal sets of yarn. Weavers continue weaving for long hours in a day, which requires extreme concentration and physical strength. With the help of multiple spinning wheels, the dyed yarn, called hank, gets converted into a thread by a process called winding. This process enables laying of yarn into neat lengths for weaving. Mechanical spinning of yarn began with the Industrial Revolution in the 17th century. During colonial rule, the British introduced spinning in mills in our country. Large spinning mills were initially located in Mumbai, but later most of the activity shifted to Tamil Nadu. Today, mill-spun yarn is used extensively by handloom weavers across the country. Warping, which is the parallel arrangement and winding of warp yarn from bobbin to the warp beam, is done afterwards. Traditionally, the weavers use a big rotating drum as warp beams and decide the width and length of the final fabric. These drums help them in counting the number and color-wise grouping of yarns. After the spools are loaded into a wooden frame, the threads are fed through wooden rollers of the warping machinery and rolled. This process gives rise to a strong thread yarn to be loaded longitudinally in a handloom called the warp. The warp generated this way is a spiral warp formed by winding the warp ends. Each warp thread is called a warp end, around a circular wooden shaft called the warp beam. Individual warp threads are drawn through heddles taken through a set of reeds and tied on beams on both ends of the loom. The heddles separate the warp into two sections, allowing the weft threads to pass between them. Checks and stripes are created by segmenting the warp and weft yarn. The pern is then inserted into a shuttle, a device used in weaving to carry the weft thread back and forth between the warp threads. For weaving motifs, looms are equipped with the jacquard settings, controlled by a chain of multiple cards punched with holes that determine which cords of the fabric warp should be raised for each pass of the shuttle. The sarees have contrasting borders in red, black, purple, yellow, green, and orange, and are all emphasized by designs of various figured motifs. The workers fold the sarees roughly in the workplace and then send it to the owner's house for the final step. The most crucial step of this handloom is removing the extra threads. The saree needs to go through the final cutting process, which involves manually cutting the tiny threads of the saree cautiously. Liquid gas is used in this process to burn all the threads hanging out of the saree, and this step is undertaken mainly by the women in the family that owns the handloom business, as one needs to be highly skilled and careful as to not burn the sarees. The sarees are then uniquely folded by two men with the help of two metal sticks as they give out a clean and stiff fold to the saree. Mr. Muppidadi from Madurai, owner of Shanmuga Textiles, even today practices the traditional method of saree making. He acquired the knowledge from his father, Kuppayandi, and his family has taken a lot of initiative to develop the 60 cotton saree technology to meet the modern day trends. We will now be looking at Sungudi saree. Madurai Sungudi saree is a very popular and thriving cottage industry. The process is a perfect example of how an already woven and unbleached saree can be transformed into an elegant soft saree employing the tie and dye process. The material is purchased in bulk. In the process of making Sungudi saree, the manufacturers need not wash or dry the cloth again, and the designs are directly pressed on them as the cloth is bleached beforehand. Huge chunks of wax are melted and a chemical compound is added. The chemical added gives the wax a liquid form. Workers use the Vaigai river sand and evenly spread it before laying down the white cloth. This step prevents the fabric from getting stuck to the table during the wax print. This is the most fundamental step involved in the printing process. The white cloth is then unfolded and placed in the center. The artists use wooden planks with designs embedded in them. The planks are then dipped into the liquid wax to print the white sarees. The workers print these designs in a particular alignment and make sure they cover the entire saree. The Sungudi saree has a variety of designs ranging from small circular designs to large floral patterns. The fabric is skillfully handcrafted. Hence, the design on each saree is unique unless the manufacturer decides to make multiple prints of the same design. The next step involved in the procedure is the tie and dye process. Chemicals like acid, soda ash and sulfur are added to boiling water to form a purple liquid. The color of the dye depends on the chemical that is used for coloring. A measured quantity of color is added to a tub depending on the number of sarees that need to be dyed. The saree is then rested in the prepared chemical dye so that the color spreads evenly to all places. Once the saree is completely dry, it is folded and the top of it is tied with two wooden slates tight enough to cover the cloth from getting dyed. The tied saree is again taken to the dyeing process where the workers repeat the same step with the previously tied portion of the saree to obtain a double-colored finish. Initially, the saree is rinsed by hand and the workers make sure that it is completely soaked in the liquid and is rinsed a couple of times before placing them with the other dyed sarees. Once the saree is almost dried, the knots are removed to reveal the design patterns. For the final process, with the help of wood, water is heated in a boiler. The saree is then put into a boiler of hot water so that the wax print that was used in the first step is separated from the saree. The workers use a large wooden stick to wash the saree and make sure that the saree is soaked well in the boiler for a few seconds. The saree is then taken out of the boiler and washed thoroughly with clean water for the second time. Once the wax starts floating on the surface, it implies that the saree is ready to be dried. The saris are then hung outside under the sun and are then folded and sent to the owner's office.
ரெண்டாவது என்னன்னா இன்னும் பண்ணலாம்னு சொன்னால் படிப்பறிவு எனக்கு கொஞ்சம் கம்மி. அதனால் இந்த அளவு பண்ணுறேன். நான் சாமிலெலாம் யாரும் காட்டுறது கிடையாது. ஸோ எல்லா பார்ட்டிஸுமே நேரடியாகவே எங்கள்கிட்ட எடுத்துகிட்டு போயிடுறாங்க. அதே போல் வெரைட்டிஸ் நாங்களாக டிசைன் பண்ணுறது தான் பூராமே. யார்கிட்டையும் காப்பி அடிக்கிறதோ யாரும் கிடையாது. ஃபேக்ட்ரியில் உண்டான டிசைன்ஸ் இருக்குது. காலையில் போய் அது 7:30 மணிக்கு ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுவோம். காலையில் 7:30 மணிக்கு எந்திரிச்சு கம்பெனிக்கு போயிட்டு கம்பெனி வேலையை முடிச்சுட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் இங்கே கடைக்கு வருவோம். இதுதான் சாப்பிட்டு காட்டுறேன். இப்போ பசையே போடாமல் ஃபுல் அண்ட் ஃபுல்லாக அதை எடுத்துக்கிட்டு தமிழ்நாடு ஃபுல்லாக இப்போ நல்லா போய்கிட்டு இருக்கு. போன வருஷத்தோட இந்த வருஷம் ஒரு 20-25 கஸ்டமர் ஜாஸ்தி. நம்ம எப்படின்னு கேட்டிங்கன்னா ஒன்லி மெயின்டெனன்ஸ் மட்டும்தான். அதனால் நமக்கு இதுவே போதும். இன்னும் நான் பண்ணணும்னு நினச்சேன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், பெரிய லெவலில் பண்ணலாம். வேண்டாம், கொரோனாவில் கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டப்பட்டோம். எவ்வளோ சம்பாதிச்சாலும் உயிர் போயிடுச்சுன்னா ஒன்றும் ஆக போகிறதில்ல. அதனால் இருப்பதை கொண்டு சிறப்பாக வாழணும் போதும்னு சொல்லி விட்டாச்சு.
The history and origin of the Sungudi saree can be traced back to the Saurashtrians who, from Gujarat, migrated to Tamil Nadu centuries before, perfecting the art of weaving Sungudi sarees. It is believed that the art of making the Sungudi saree reached Madurai during the Nayak dynasty around the 16th century. To please the local kings, the Saurashtrians of Madurai created a gift item of cotton fabric and called it the Madurai Sungudi. Thus, the art is seen to be much older and practiced since ancient times, and the word Sungudi, a Saurashtrian word, is derived from the Sanskrit word sunnam, which translates to round. Thus, Sungudi meant ringed dots, which are spread throughout the fabric of the saree and form a distinct and unique feature. Sungudi sarees are the primary source of livelihood for more than 10,000 people in Madurai, with its central manufacturing unit and establishment in Madurai, Tamil Nadu. The Saurashtrians are masters of this art. The marketing of the Sungudi saree is limited only to the south because of less awareness of Sungudi as a craft amongst people, making Sungudi almost extinct in the north. It's fascinating to see how people living in tough conditions with few resources to meet even their most basic needs weave such beautiful fabrics and stick to their craft no matter what. It is up to us to learn from them how to value and respect our traditional heritage so that it does not perish. This ancient art of saree making is known to only a select few and is slowly fading away. The purpose of this documentary is to spread awareness about these handlooms so that they continue to thrive and also reach a widespread audience. This way, we can preserve and cherish our culture and tradition in an even better way.